Hi, and welcome everyone. Uh, Welcome to this exclusive session organized by the MBA Club. My name is Khadija Tari, and today I have the privilege to have with me Dhanush Sirohi, a distinguished Zicklin School of Business graduate, former fashion designer, and a soon-to-be member of Bristol Myers Squibb. His unconventional journey from the world of fashion to the corridors of business education is a tale filled with inspiration, tenacity, and innovation. We are eager to explore Danush's remarkable transition into the business world and hear firsthand about the motivations, strategies, and experiences that have shaped his path. In addition, we will delve into vital subject of networking and essential skills in today's interconnected world. Now, without any further ado, let's dive into our conversation. Dhanush, welcome and thank you for your time.
No, thank you. Thank you, Khadija, for such a lovely introduction. First of all, that's very, very kind of you. And really
And
excited
very
to be here.
true.
Really excited to be, I just graduated from MBA, full-time MBA. So already being an alumni is a strange feeling, but it also feels very good to be on call with you. And then I know how hard you have worked for the MBA club. And also all those who don't know, Khadija is a very dear friend. So it was such a no-brainer for me to just, come and speak about all the experiences I had in the last 2 years. So yes.
Thank you very much for your kind words. So to start, to start off, can you please introduce yourself and share with us your journey from being a fashion designer to pursuing an MBA at Zicklin School of Business?
Yes, absolutely. So, as I already mentioned, I recently finished my full-time MBA in May 2023 and I started in
Mhm.
2021. So before that, I was in fashion industry. So my undergraduate studies, my bachelor degree in design was from a college called NIF Bombay back in India. And it was a fashion designing institute. And I graduated in a bachelor's degree from there in 2017. So I was very interested in the whole world of fashion. I started as a fashion designer for a couple of years, and I moved to United States in 2019, where I got a chance to work in more in the marketing side of fashion, and that's when I joined Macy's Corporation. So I started working as
Mhm.
a business manager for approximately 2.5 years. I was working with the buying team, with the marketing team. However, my role was more inclined towards the sale and customer service. So after having this experience with Macy's and being very closely working with the marketing team and buying team, I realized that I really want to go for higher education and want to gain more perspective of how marketing works, how strategy works in a big
Mhm.
corporation. And I started MBA in 2021. And that was also the time when COVID happened. So there were a lot of changes happening in the corporate world. There were a lot of
Mhm.
changes happening in everyone's personal lives. And that was the time I also realized that it'll be really interesting for me to see if I can pivot into a different career. Because at that point, I kind of made my mind to leave fashion industry and then move into a different industry. And I thought nothing could be better than a business school to pursue that pivot of my career.
Mhm.
However, it's not that easy. And to find out that what's the kind of a career I want to pivot to is also quite interesting and a very challenging process sometimes. So before that, once I started school, I started looking into different options, different industries, and I spoke to a lot of people, a lot of mentors, and I decided that pharmaceutical is a very stable industry. I found a very, very good opportunity there with Bristol Myers. I actually interned there, which I'm sure we will talk a lot more about later. But yeah,
Mhm.
to cut it short, so I interned there last summer after my first year, and then they offered me a full-time job. So I will be returning with them. Actually, this Monday will be my first day as a full-time employee. So very excited for that. And
Congratulations.
thank you. And yeah, so definitely we can discuss more about it and open to any questions. So that's a little bit about me.
So to start with, um, since you've lived this experience of switching careers, what's for you the tip number one? We will discuss the other tips, but the tip number one for someone who likes to switch career drastically, like you did.
First, I would say is a research. Like you really need to know what are you looking into, what kind of career you want to get into, because
Mm-hmm.
switching career is not just easy. And also keeping a very open mind. Because when I
Mm-hmm.
came to the MBA program, I was kind of inclined towards only the consumer product goods industry. So I was looking at companies like, P&G and Colgate and Pepsi and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, that will suit my career because I come from fashion, which is also very consumer-based product, and generally everything is. But I was like, okay, that is kind of like in rails with that. However, I was told by a very good mentor of mine that keep your mind open and try to explore every industry possible. And
Mm-hmm.
I had a doubt because I come from such a non-traditional background. I was like, I cannot look into finance. I cannot look into pharma because that's just not me. I have never experienced that. However, that's the whole point of MBA. And now you will see the bigger the corporation, the more diversity they want in terms of educational backgrounds. So I started also looking into a lot of other companies which were not in my ally, I would say, like Bristol Myers or Johnson and Johnson and Pfizer and whatnot. And I realized that they were very receptive to a non-traditional background. They were very receptive to my design background, to my
Mm-hmm.
background in retail. And I was pretty pleasantly surprised. So that's my number one tip, that you really have to be very broad-minded and connect with as many people as you can, because you will hear me speaking this word over and over throughout this chat: networking, networking, networking. When I
Mm.
joined MBA, I heard this so much. At one point, I was frustrated. What the hell does that even mean? Like, who am I networking with? But just getting on calls with people, attending coffee chats, which are hosted by so many companies and corporations, that helps you so much. So that
Mm-hmm.
is number one advice. I would say number two advice will be networking. Number one is keeping a very broad horizon and a very open mind. But I'm sure some of you also have a very straight path, like, okay, I want to go in finance. That's not wrong. But if you are confused and if
Mm.
you are getting into a new career, keeping a very broad mind and an open mind is a very good way to start the process.
Yeah, and I think also that um, even when we have like a definitive idea about what we want to do or a fixed idea, it's always a good thing to keep our
Yeah,
options open because, for example, I have a background in finance. I worked in real estate, and then when I came here, especially as an international, I wasn't aware of the number of opportunities that can like fit my skill set.
right.
And it reminds me, actually, also your second point reminds me of a conversation I had last week with the first year's MBA student. And the question that kept coming again and again was, this is networking is the word that we hear everywhere. And we really want to understand how, and like how can I dig into networking? What are the tips? And I think that this is one of the main reasons. I mean, one of the main topics we will discuss today. As you know, and as I know, when we just started our in this program, we didn't know exactly how much important networking is, and now we realize, and still, like, I think that I still have a year ahead. And again, like, networking is always like a concept that, I mean, a topic that we keep learning from with time. It's evolving all the time. So before like talking about the internship, because I know the networking was like a big part of it, what is your strategy? What was your strategy since the beginning? Have it changed? And in what ways did you like make it better? You proved
I
it.
Great question, Khadija. And I mean, I completely agree that we hear so much about networking. So my strategy, since day one, like I heard so much about networking part. So I was like, let me just start with something as simple as connecting with people on LinkedIn. So when we started getting on to when I was starting Baruch around
Mhm.
2.5 years ago, I started
Mhm.
connecting with the alumni, people who just passed out, and just very simple questions I started asking them, like, guys, how do you look for internship? Where do I go and attend any events? And what kind of event should I be attending? And
Mhm.
then I got so much perspective from everybody. I tried to connect with a couple of professors. So that's where my networking journey began. And one thing I was told during these networking journeys is that when you start looking for an internship for the summer, you gotta be very quick. Like you gotta be very, or you have to start it very early in your program, which is
Mm-hmm.
September, October, because that's when all of the big companies, most of them, hire the interns for the next year summer. So if any
Mm-hmm.
first year who are here or maybe watching this video later, please make
Mm-hmm.
sure that if you are looking for an internship summer 2024, you got to make sure that you start applying and interviewing from September and October onwards, because by November, most of the big companies will shut off their hiring process for the interns next year. Now, I was told that. I didn't know
Mm-hmm.
that before because I was like, oh, that's too early. That's like almost a year in advance. However, I started looking on LinkedIn, on different job boards, at what kind of internships are available. And I was so surprised and shocked, I would say, that there are tons available for next year already. Now, how do I know what's the best fit for me? So I started reaching out to the recruiters. I saw a lot of companies were hosting coffee chats. A lot of companies were very eager to actually meet with students and just have one-on-one with them. And that doesn't mean it's an interview. Even just a simple one-on-one can go a long way. And I remember just being on one of these coffee chats, I got my first internship interview with a company called 3M in Minnesota, which is a pretty big company. And I was very
Yeah.
surprised because I just attended one of their coffee chats, and the recruiter called me a couple of days later and they were like, oh, Dhanush, we would like to interview. And I was like, wow, that's really amazing. And I ended up actually getting that internship. However, I ended up choosing Bristol Myers. And then what another thing which I highly, highly recommend, especially to the business students, for the MBA students, the job fairs. So the three I absolutely highly recommend and love is National Black, which is NBMBAAA, National Black MBA Association. The second one is Prospanica, which is for the Hispanic community, and the other one is Romba, which is for the LGBTQ community and their allies. Now, three of them sounds very specific because
Mm.
it's for Black community, Hispanic community, and one is for the LGBTQ community, but it doesn't
Yeah.
stop you to
How
go.
about the others?
Huh? Yes,
And
exactly.
how
Because
about the
yeah, no, that's a very valid question because people will be like, oh, it's for a particular community. Maybe we are not
Yeah.
welcome there, and it's maybe specific for them, which is a very fair question. And I had that question too. However, I was encouraged that you have to go attend these. Basically, it's not uh I would say it doesn't stop at one particular community. Everybody is
Mm-hmm.
welcome there. And Khadija, you were at National Black last year. You know, I was at National Black. So many of our friends were there, and we saw this huge number of people who, this is the
Yeah.
biggest MBA fair in the country. And you will be
Mm-hmm.
amazed the kind of interviews, the kind of companies that come over, and some of them even hire on the spot for the interns. So it's like this pool of opportunity if your budget permits. You should definitely make the best out of National Black Conference, Prospanica
Mm.
Conference, and the Romba Conference. And then National Black Conference this year is happening in Philadelphia, so which is very close actually, which is not even far. So that's
Mm-hmm.
actually will save a lot of traveling costs and other stuff. Now,
Yeah.
starts and going back to a networking part. Now,
Mm-hmm.
so National Black happens in September. So when I joined, I registered for National Black first thing. And then what I did, I went through their job board, and you will get so many emails. Then the companies that are coming and they will invite you to interview for them, they will invite you to
Mm-hmm.
connect with them. And that's what the real networking will start. You will message them, you will send them your resume, and that's how you started connecting with them because you just don't want to text somebody like, hey, what's up? Like, can I connect with you? That doesn't mean anything. You write a resume,
Mm.
you attach the resume like, hey, I'm very interested to work in your company. I saw an opportunity in the summer internship program. Here's my resume. Would love to connect and discuss it. So you have a plan of action and you know what you
Mm-hmm.
need from that recruiter. So that's how I used to connect. And I connected with so many people there. And that's how Bristol Myers happened to me because I connected with one of the recruiters. And once I spoke to the recruiter, I wasn't very hopeful because I was from a completely different background. However, the
Yeah.
recruiter encouraged me to actually go ahead and submit my resume for the job because she was like, trust me, Dhanush, we appreciate, this. diverse talent. We appreciate non-traditional backgrounds. And I had 3 interviews after that. I got the interview, which was very surprising. And I had 3 interviews after that, and I got the internship. To be honest, it was a very, very pleasant surprise. I wasn't expecting it. However, my interviews
Mhm.
were great, but just for my skill set, I was like, maybe it won't be a fit. But it
Mhm.
worked out, and my networking helped there. So in short, if I had to sum it all up, I can talk about networking all day, but if I have to shorten it up, connect to
Yeah.
many people, use the tools like LinkedIn, all these job fairs and their
Mhm.
networking websites. It is so much helpful, and it can gain you so much, I would say, face-to-face time with recruiters and the companies, and they don't shy to give you an interview right away. So use those
Mm.
opportunities, because I connected with more than 200 people in 2 to 3 months. I got a very good amount of interviews, and I also got almost 4 internship offers by November. So that was my experience with networking. So I would highly, highly encourage and recommend it to for everybody or anybody.
I won't say it enough. A remarkable journey. Thank you very much for sharing this with us. And my next question will be, how did you prepare yourself to this new role in how did you prepare yourself for this new role in the pharmaceutical industry, and in general, what were for you the skills that are undeniably useful for this for a business world, for a
Yeah.
corporate?
So I came from as I said, it's a non-traditional background, and that's the whole
Mm.
main reason for our call today. So when I was about to start my internship after I got the offer, now my concern and my job, I got the offer in October 2021.
Mm-hmm.
My job started in June 2022. So that's like almost 8 months gap. So
Yeah.
first, like we got the offers, we accepted it, and basically around March, that's when the company reached out about onboarding process and everything. And that's when
Mm-hmm.
it really hit me that what kind of project will I be working on? What does pharmaceutical industry look like? Because the company Bristol Myers, they mostly make cancer drugs. So it's a very,
Yeah.
I would say, a different world for me. So
Mm-hmm.
I started reaching out to people. Again, going back to the part of networking, I started reaching out to these people who have already interned at Bristol Myers. We call it BMS, so I'll be using BMS as the acronym now.
Mm-hmm.
It's just easy.
Sure.
So I reached out to interns at BMS, and I was like, hey, I'm I'll be joining as an intern this summer. And what are your any suggestions, anything that I could get ready with? So one thing everybody told me, Dhanush, don't worry about the details yet, because you don't even know which department you'll be working on. However, one thing that
Mm.
comes in very handy, that undeniably, as you said, is the most important thing that you can take, is how adaptive you are, how quick of a learner you are. And also, when you go from business school, you already know how to market, how to strategize. So you know how to put
Mm.
your thoughts together. You will learn on the job.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you put that learning out to the marketing team or out to the strategy team in a corporate is what business school teaches you. And trust me, like all of you who are in business school right now, when you will be at the job, you'll be like, oh wow, this actually, I have so much more skills than I even knew about. And I felt that way. So how did I prepare myself? I think it was mostly preparing mentally and just being confident. Okay, you know what? Like they hired me, and then these are the people
Mm-hmm.
who have so much experience. They didn't just hire me for nothing. They might have seen something in me. So I was very, very positive at the towards the big like end of my semester, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna start in a few weeks. I already knew, and then I got my project, which was oncology drug called Obdivo, which is a pretty
Mm.
heavy drug, and then it's a very well marketed drug already. So I started reading about it a lot, so at least I know the kind of drug I'll be working with. That was very
Mm-hmm.
exciting. I got to, and I asked for some reading material about cancer and different kind of cancers. So that all was
Mm-hmm.
going great. And once I joined, I got my projects, like deliverables. Okay, Dhanush, in 2.5 months you have to figure out this, figure out that.
Mm-hmm.
And once I got that, it was just easy. And there is so much help from everyone. And every
Yeah.
internship, like if you go, they're not just gonna put you and be like, okay, you are in a company that make cancer drugs, now market it. It doesn't work that way. So yeah.
Yeah. They don't leave you in the wild by
Oh
yourself,
no.
right?
Oh no, I'll be like a deer in the headlights. Like I'll be all over the place because it's not easy. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Especially like it's, as you said, very specific industry. It's not,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
And so coming back to networking again,
Hmm.
as it's our favorite word,
Hmm.
uh, have you done, or do you feel that you have done any mistakes during your time? Hello, are you still here?
Oh, I'm here. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Is there any like have you done any mistakes?
Any
Any
mis-
mistakes during, yeah, in networking during your journey in
hmm.
business school?
I'm just thinking, no, definitely, there were mistakes. I won't say there weren't. I think in my
Mm-hmm.
first month of networking, when I just
Mm-hmm.
started, I was
Mm-hmm.
being very vague when I was into networking with people. Like if I see a job, I was like, hey, can we connect on LinkedIn? I know you are recruiting for XYZ company and this,
Mm-hmm.
and that's it. Can we connect? And then I realized
Yeah.
these recruiters are getting thousands and thousands of messages, even not just the recruiters, even like people from any company. If I was trying to
Mm-hmm.
connect with anybody who was from MBA, Baruch MBA, so I wasn't really like mentioning what I want to connect about. And that's very vague. And I do get like
Mm.
those messages now sometimes. And then I also
Yeah.
think the same way. However, I realized that I was at the same spot 2 years ago. So, you learn by your mistakes. So, some of the mistakes initially I made when I was writing cover letters or when I was writing out to recruiters or just trying to get on
Mm-hmm.
company chats, I wasn't really, being specific. I wasn't adding my resume. So I was told later, like few weeks down the line, because I wasn't hearing back from so many people, and which is very
Mm.
normal, guys. So if you are trying to reach out to 100 people, it's not necessary that you will hear back from all the 100. Sometimes it would be 10, sometimes it would be only 5 people you will hear back from. So don't get
Mm-hmm.
disappointed with that. But those 5 people might all end up being a very good source of information for you. So that is one thing. I wasn't being specific with my messages. I wasn't being specific with my emails. But once I got it, and once I attended a lot of these, conversations from
Mm-hmm.
the club, and so I realized I need to be specific. So I always used to attach my resume. I would make my cover letter very specific. If a company needs a cover letter, I would write an email. Hey, I saw this particular job. I would attach the link, and
Mm-hmm.
the MBA school, I think I'll be a good fit for it, and I would definitely love to know more about it. So when I was becoming, and then I would tell a little bit about myself, about my experience, and that's when I really heard a good response. So
Mm-hmm.
earliest mistakes were definitely not being specific about my reaching out goal. That why am I reaching out?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Um, it resonates with me because it took me almost a year to understand that I really needed to be specific in every request.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, people don't have time. I
Right.
sometimes I would like ask for help or ask questions and try to connect, but I didn't receive any response back, and I felt like completely in the wild at that time. But now with time, I realize that actually I need to be as specific as possible if I want to. Um, if there's an opportunity and I'm talking with a recruiter, say I want this, I'm interested in this position, please can we have a chat about it? Or say here are my skill sets, or here is my interest, my list of interests, top three, and go from there. Otherwise, people will be like, okay, how can
Mhm.
I help you? And
Exactly.
be looking at you without having anything in mind. And this is like when you are lucky enough to find someone who is interested in just listening to something they don't expect, they don't know. Yeah, no.
Right.
Yeah, so
Because what you said, Kharida, like about being specific about your message, that is very important. That's the key.
mm,
Like, you have to be specific about your goal of that call you want to make with that person. You just can't
yeah,
randomly like, hey, can we get on a call? And nobody will really pay attention to that. So that is one thing.
absolutely.
Yeah. So very, very important, key.
Yeah, so here is one question about recruiting,
Mhm.
and later we will switch to business, your life in business school.
Yeah.
uh, so during the recruiting process, I hear from different people that it's important to create a bond with the recruiter, right? If you have techniques to create a bond with
Yeah.
recruiters, what are these first, and also what are, from your experience, the icebreaker? When you meet
Yeah.
someone, it's first, and for you, like, it's, I mean, from my perspective, when I was having interviews at first, I kind of thought that the other person on the other side was a machine.
Yeah, yeah,
And I won't like make it, I mean, and then I learned how to make it a little bit more human. Yeah, so let
yeah.
me
That's
like share with me what.
it's a very good question. I know who planted this question. So I'll go ahead. So no, this is a very good question. So I generally like
Mhm.
also guys, like it depends on like personality to personality of everybody, right? So it doesn't mean that everybody is an extrovert or everybody is an introvert, it
Mhm.
completely depends on your skill set also. So whatever I'm gonna say only reflects of my experience. It doesn't reflect of every because the personality thing is
Mhm.
different for every single human on this planet. So like my
Yeah.
personality, I'm an extrovert and then I like to talk and sometimes I just talk too much. And so that has been, and then one thing, however, I tell everyone because
Mm.
a lot of people ask me this question, hey Dhanush, you already got an internship, or you got two internship and so on. What did you do in the interview? And I was like, honestly, like nothing different. Like the technical questions are separate, they will ask you technical
Mhm.
questions, you reply. They will ask you behavioral questions, they reply. Apart from
Mm.
that, there's always some space, like the first few minutes of the interview, the last few minutes of the interview, which are basically left for just you to talk about. And what I generally
Mm.
always went in is with a very true, honest self, which again sounds like a cliche, but I
Mhm.
just kept my personality as it is. I wasn't going there and pretending to be a corporate robot. Like I'm a designer
Mhm.
from heart, like I studied designing, so that stays with me. Like I'm more of a right mind, like my right brain works more than my left. That's just a thing.
Mhm.
And I always mention that, hey guys, just so I come from a very non-traditional background. So if you expect me to know the details of cancer drugs or oncology, I absolutely do not know. So I was very
Mhm.
candid about these things. I never hid them. But I also mentioned that this doesn't mean that I cannot really work because I have researched your company and my skills actually are good here. So I always had my research done. I would always like to learn a
Mhm.
little bit about the interviewers beforehand on LinkedIn and just see what they have done. And if something comes up interesting, I was like, oh my God, I saw that you graduated from Penn State, or you also are from a non-traditional background. And
Mm.
sometime if and I always like to tell, okay, what's going on in my life, hey, you know what, I just got engaged, and this actually is a true story. So and sometimes like, oh my God, I think I'm oversharing, but I just have this tendency, like if I start talking about my life, I just keeps going on. But I
Mhm.
always kept it very candid and casual, but also of course very strictly professional as well. Like it doesn't
Mhm.
unprofessional, but I kept it very candid and real. Every time there were behavioral questions about my experiences. So my last full-time job before MBA was at Macy's, where I was for almost 2.5 to 3 years. And it was a lovely experience I had. So I spoke very highly about it because I loved my job over there. I did some great things over there. And I made sure I shared with them. I overshared with them because they don't know
Mhm.
anything about you. So don't be shy sharing or just, flaunting your great achievements that you had at your job or school. That is very important. That's what I did. I was like, if there was a longer story, they asked me about teamwork, and my teamwork of experience was really fun, and it was like longer. I would tell them, hey guys, it's a longer experience. It's gonna take me 5 minutes to explain it. Do you have time like that? And they will be very happy to listen.
Mm.
So those things, because I flaunted whatever I have done, because if I worked so hard in my previous job, I loved it so much, I would love to share it with the person who is sitting next to me, because there's
Yeah.
another way to do it. Yes, I did teamwork, I did that project, it was really great, and thank you. But coming the kind of background I came from, that wasn't enough. You have to explain and I always loved explaining like what I enjoyed, what I did not enjoy. So that always kind of worked. And I think like that's a key, that when you are interacting with a recruiter, just remember, as you said, Khadija, it's not a machine on the other side, it's a human.
Mm.
When you're getting into corporate world, they just don't look, okay, you're just gonna come sit on the desk and that's it, especially when you are in the business world. You need
Mhm.
somebody who can, like, who is engaging. So engage
Yeah.
them and, like interact with them as, like I would say that you are actually talking to a person, who is also as interested to know about you. And I always
Mhm.
ask about the other person as well. So yeah, that's my key there. Mhm.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing this. And
Sure.
this leads me to another question before moving on to the
Mhm.
business school life. So when you are sharing your experiences, usually we are we have to attach any I would say bullet point to a result, to a number, quantify and measure our achievement. Do you think that it is, I would say, crucial to associate every bullet point with a number? And how do you sometimes show your, I mean, if you ever have like qualitative kind of bullet
Mhm.
point, how do you attach them to a measure? How do you measure the results of your work there?
So are we, Khadija, I have a question so I get it
Mm-hmm.
correctly. You're asking
Mm.
specifically about putting it in the resume or just talking about it to the recruiter?
I mean, not necessarily. I'm talking about talking about it, because at the
Okay,
end of
got
the
it.
day you have the bullet point, but you have to
Mhm.
explain what you
Yeah,
achieved within this
yeah, yeah.
concept or something.
So one thing I see, that's a very good question because one thing I learned when I started working in corporate, like, after I got out of the fashion designing job and I started at Macy's, that numbers
Mm-hmm.
means a lot because it's a business at the end of the day. Everything
Mm-hmm.
has to have, like, it doesn't mean that everything has to be just about the numbers, but it has to somehow reflect in the company's numbers, be it the engagement result. But numbers always doesn't mean the money that's coming in. It could be the engagement of the customers. It could be engagement of the employees. It could be, like the loyalty points which you get from your customers or whatever. It could be like every business is different. So it could be
Mm-hmm.
things. However, when I talk about something which doesn't, so one thing I'll tell you. So I was working on this strategy at Macy's, which was really not, I wasn't able to quantify it until,
Mm-hmm.
for 6 months to 1 year because there was no way. But however, when I was doing it, it was very well appreciated by the leaders of my company, like the vice president of Macy's, and I actually ended up even presenting it to the CEO of company that time. So there is
Mm-hmm.
no quantifying measure for it. However, when I was talking to the recruiter sharing my experience, I was like, because it was a short time, that strategy did not bring the numbers that I was looking for, or there was like no number to compare. However,
Mm-hmm.
very well appreciated by the leaders, like the CEO or the vice president. So, I'm telling my efforts. However, I can't quantify it, but I'm also telling that it had the quality and it was appreciated by the people who lead the company. So, you
Mm-hmm.
just have to be very specific. Don't keep it vague. Oh, yeah, I worked on a strategy and it went well. So, it's great, but what went well? How did it go well? What did you do to make it go well?
Mm-hmm.
Those questions. So engage in that conversation and be honest about the numbers. Okay, so there was no way to quantify it. However, this was the way we made it quantify. Like we made, because if you can't quantify something, how will you know it's success or not? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah,
es-
absolutely.
especially in business world. So that's one thing. But yeah, it's like I would say, like, if you are talking about, like, if you have 5 bullets to speak about, you should definitely have at least 3 to 4 bullets that definitely have a measurable number to
Mm-hmm.
define success. Because in business world, it's not just, yeah, you just cannot go and be like, oh wow, I had a great time selling stuff. But selling what? Selling who? So that's the thing.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Thank you for this clarification.
of course.
And now I will move to business school. So,
I'm listening.
what
Go ahead.
was,
Mhm.
yes, what was, according to you, the courses that helped you have the foundation or the skills necessary to get into where you are today, to land a job at VMS, as you call it?
So the first semester is a cohort where we all have take those four
Mm-hmm.
subjects. And then I think the MBA school have put it together so nicely. All those 4 subjects are very important. Like I remember
Mm-hmm.
one of my favorite was the organizational one. The other one was strategy, which remained one of my favorite classes. by that time, like after I finished the first semester, I knew I want to get into, more towards the marketing and strategy side. Then I started researching the marketing subjects that I can take. So that's the sooner you start, better, because there are so many subjects which needs a prerequisite. So you just can't
Mm-hmm.
take marketing level 2 if you haven't done marketing level 1. And you got to make sure you take marketing level 1 in semester 2, because if you, or semester 1, because if you don't, then you won't be able to take it in semester 2. So you are kind of backing yourself up. So those
Yeah.
kind of things. However, I think all the marketing subjects and all the leadership subjects were very, very helpful to me, because that's the kind of area I was trying to excel in. It
Mm-hmm.
made me very vocal about my ideas, and it was also very creative courses. Like there was a
Mm-hmm.
course about startups, and it was so cool. The professor like gave us such amazing projects that was like that helped us to like think beyond and outside the box. And also the projects were very creative, and it also made you like go up on the stage and talk a lot, so made you very vocal. So those things really, really
Yeah.
helped me a lot, those kind of subjects.
Mm-hmm.
Technical subjects like, I would say, there is finance. It's not my cup
Mm-hmm.
of tea, but it has helped a lot of students. So
Mm-hmm.
one thing, yes, when I'm talking about my favorite subjects, I also want to tell you, do not take the subject just for the sake of it. So I was
Mm.
told, take
Yeah.
finance because you are in MBA. And finance is something that I don't know a lot about. And it's not my cup of tea. I took it in the first semester and I had to drop that class in 2 weeks because it was just not helping me anyway. And I sat down and I talked to my advisor that time. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
she was like, is this going to help you in your career ever? And I mean, not that finance, I mean, finance is absolutely important,
Yeah.
but the career path that I was looking at, it's not gonna support me there. So I was like,
At
okay,
least not now.
or not now, yes.
Yeah.
So don't, yeah, so take subjects that are really going to help you. Be creative.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to like challenge yourself, always be, go ahead and take extra subjects. It's up to you. But always make sure that you are not like burdening something just because you see, oh, other person is taking a tax class. Oh, other person is taking a, statistics class and you don't need it.
Mm-hmm.
So you go ahead and do what you like to do. And like, so the marketing subjects, coming back to the point, I love all the marketing subjects because I could very much relate to that and actually enjoy
Mm-hmm.
doing it. Because also after the second year, I knew I had this job. So I also started looking at the subjects that would directly help me in this job. So that was helpful.
Yeah. So again, also like a word that we don't mention a lot, but that is like a key is organization, being
Yes.
organized, because I can gather that being organized helped you jump on the opportunities at first, and then by getting an opportunity, you tailored your 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 courses or your path in
Mm-hmm.
school
Yep.
by taking the courses that were the most that were the best fit to your path. So now another point that I think is very important, and it's a kind of like a small trap that nobody talks about, which is time management. um, so you worked in the past and then you became a student, and we have the impression that it's a lot of free time, even though you said that you had free time. I mean, I know that you had at the beginning to manage your time, to organize your time in order to get like the most out of it and do networking, work on your recruitment process, and also be a plus student at school.
I mean, thank you for your kind words, Khadija. I mean, I don't know if like all of that is true, but listen, time
I
management is
think it
very
is.
important. And
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't a easy sale for me. And you know that, Khadija, more than anybody. Okay, you were a part of that. So the first semester for me was hectic, especially the first few months. It was so
Mm-hmm.
hectic, I won't lie, because I was also working part-time. So I was working 24 hours in a marketing agency, very close to school though, like 10 minutes walk. So I was working there at least 24 hours a week. Then I had 4 classes going on in the first semester. And then all these career fairs were going on. So there was so much going on. But the time management thing is basically having a good calendar with you. make sure you are adding every single meeting, every single coffee chat over there and scheduling. Don't think that just remembering in your mind is going to help it, because it's such a crucial time. And I think I worked the hardest in my first semester, because this was the first time I was working and I was studying. I was finishing assignments. Everything was new to me, because my
Mm-hmm.
full-time job, full-time job, you can get very comfortable at one point. Like you go, you come back, you make money. Now it's very different. Now you're making part-time money and you're also studying and you're doing all these career fairs. So I had to travel to Chicago for one, and I had to travel to, some other state for one. So it was a lot. So what I would say is, what I was saying, sorry, I lost my train.
It's okay.
So no, coming back to it, yes, how do I do the time management? So time management, I think, is a good calendar. I don't mean like a good app of a calendar. I mean just make
Mm-hmm.
the calendar in a very good way. Also, don't be too harsh on yourself. Make sure you have some time, and this is very important, to be with your friends, to be with your family, and to just some leisure time. Because
Mm-hmm.
once I got out of the first semester, I tried to travel as much as I can, because once you again get a full-time job, you're not gonna get time like that. So that is another advice I give to everyone. If you can, if you want to, if you can, please do it. Like not just traveling, just, be around your friends and
Mm-hmm.
have a good time as well, because that kind of balances it out. Otherwise, it just puts so much stress on you. And early you start with the recruiting process, early you start with the career development, and the sooner you get an internship, the more easier rest of your semester goes. And then by
Mm-hmm.
second semester, I would say, I would say, I wasn't like, it wasn't easy either. I took 5 classes, so it was also
Mm-hmm.
difficult. Classes were pretty hard, but I was like comfortable. Like I started getting a hang of my job, and the recruiting season was dead for me because I already got the internship.
Yeah.
So I didn't have that stress on my head. However, after that, the second year was a smooth sail. So there, my time management was really not that hard because I already got the gist of it in the first year. So second year becomes easy because you already know what you are expecting. And then
Mm-hmm.
your full-time job search starts. So yeah, if that answers your question, Khadija.
That's great. I mean, yeah, definitely. And I think that now I will give the floor to our audience if they want to ask any question. I think that I got the most out of you today. I asked you all the questions that we have never had the time to just sit down and talk about.
Yeah. No, but of
I
course,
mean,
like, please, yeah, no, this was amazing. And then, yes, any questions, if anybody has, if I haven't answered anything, please feel free to ask.
yeah, so we will give them some time.
Yeah.
Hey,
Okay.
hi. Audible?
Yes. Hi,
Hi,
Harsh.
Harsh.
Yeah, hi. So, Dhanush, I had one question. You refer to the job fairs and, recruitment fairs about to understand and to interact with recruiters. But then, so like, as it seems that you're from a non-traditional background, so you want to pitch yourself, you want to start a conversation. How did you manage? Because that's where we think that, oh, I don't know anything about this, and how gonna start the conversation? How can I put on a track? So how did you do that?
Very good question, Harsh. And also nice to meet you. So, Harsh, what happens is, one thing I always advise everybody, that when you go to a career fair, you just don't walk in and just start meeting the recruiters. I mean, people do that. However, every career fair, especially the three I mentioned, have their website established, and they post all the jobs and internships over there almost a month in advance. So what you do is, you go there and start sending your resume and reaching out to those recruiters. So they all these companies which are coming to these career fairs will have coffee chats where anybody can go and listen to what they are saying. That's the time when you connect with them. So you are not just going to a career fair where already there are 20 people ahead of you in the line to, like, a Johnson and Johnson booth, or Cognizant booth, or any company's booth. So you just go there, you show your face, you give your resume, and you walk out. That doesn't is really effective because they have like 100 resumes in their hands. So the key is that you connect with them weeks before it, and you schedule an interview with them. So now, coming to your question, hey, my name is Dhanush. really excited for this job. I come from a non-traditional background, and you don't say that I don't know anything about the company, but I chose the MBA career because I chose MBA because I really want to pivot into your industry. I have been very and you tell why that industry interests you and why that company interests you. I want to be in consumer product goods because that's where my skills excel the most. I want to be with P&G because I have been an avid follower of all the products that you make. So you tell them that you really have researched about the industry and the company. However, you come from a non-traditional background. So and tell them how is that helpful for that company. I come from a non-traditional, but also that makes me more interesting for your company. I come with creative ideas. Like I can assure you that you will get ideas that are fresh and new because I have a different perspective towards it. Maybe you will have people who work with the left side of the brain. I will work with the right side or vice versa. So that's the way you approach them. So you make them see that, okay, you are coming from a different industry, but you are bringing a new perspective and a lot of enthusiasm. That's what you need. So you go there with 100% confidence. And even if you cannot schedule an interview, because when you go to these career fairs, like whenever I went to National Black, I went there twice in my both years. I already had 5 to 6 interviews scheduled, like for those 2 or 3 days. Or if I wasn't able to get an interview, like there are many companies which do not schedule interviews in like beforehand. What you do is you will see what openings they have, so you go and talk directly about the opening. Hey, XYZ, I saw the opening for the marketing internship at BMS, and I really think I'll be a good fit for it. Here's my resume, and if you want, I can walk you through it. And that's how you start the conversation. So, just instead of just going there, hey, what jobs do you guys have? Do you have anything for me? And you will be surprised at how many people do that mistake. So be prepared. That's the key. Be prepared, and be prepared. So yeah, that's it. I think Harshit helps you.
Okay, so you mean being very specific, like first deciding your target itself,
Mm-hmm.
and then then having conversation about the target at what you want to achieve, and showcasing your transferable skills to show them, okay, this gonna contribute something else which will also be beneficial apart from what is being contributed right now.
Right. No, absolutely. You said it word to word. This is great. Yeah. And then also, Harsh, like I always highly encourage everyone to go on these career fairs because you get to meet so many people. You get to connect and you actually end up with jobs and internship. It's a real thing because the amount of internships and jobs I have gotten from, I think my 90% of my recruitment happened through these career fairs. So I highly recommend everybody. Also, if anyone in the chat or if anyone who will be watching this later, if you ever want to connect with me on LinkedIn, just talk about how to prepare for it. I'm more than happy to talk just one-on-one and just give you every advice that I have, like whatever tips I use, I'm more than happy to share with you guys as well. So yeah.
Thank you, Dhanush, very much. We will make sure to put your LinkedIn account attached to this video on the YouTube channel. So I think we don't want to take a lot of your time, but we still have 2 other questions on the chat. I will pick only one. Do not make it too much for you. Is there anything you wish you have done differently?
So this actually resonates with my answer. You remember, Khadija, when you were asking me like what you would have done differently in the terms of networking? The specificity of your messages, like how specific you are when you reach out to somebody over an email or a message. So that is one thing which I remember. And second thing, like I always not regretted, but that thing stuck with me. I was telling you about like I took a finance class in the first semester.
Yes.
Something I wish that maybe if I stuck with that class, so my goal was to, sorry, my goal was to have very limited amount of classes in my last semester so I can 100% focus on my recruitment for the full-time job. And I wish I had that fifth subject and I didn't drop it off and I just kept going, and maybe I would have learned a little bit of finance, but that's a very personal, I would say that's a very personal answer to
Yeah.
the question. But because it's always good to learn new things, and maybe I missed an opportunity to learn a little bit more about finance. However, I wasn't
Yeah.
interested in it at that time, but also it's very hard to understand anything in 2 classes. But also at the
Yeah.
same time, first semester is so hectic because you're so new to everything. So yeah, maybe like I wish I kept that class and I learned more about that subject, or maybe I was brave enough to take that subject again, but I didn't choose to. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's I mean, these are not necessarily regrets, but just you are wondering if it was possible to make it differently. That's it,
Yeah,
right?
probably. Yeah, I would say that. But another
Yeah.
thing, as I said, like my networking approach, I wish like I learned a little bit sooner. So that was also, but I
Mhm.
would say it's a big regret, but definitely something I would improve on if I go back 2 years in time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Dhanush, thank you very much for your time. It has been a pleasure to have you here to ask you all these questions and to get your invaluable insights on your business school journey and your business your journey towards with networking and towards BMS and pharmaceutical industry as a whole. So I think we will stop here,
Thank
and
you.
thank you very much.
Thank you, Khadija, first of all, for organizing this because I know like how much I was helped by attending all these, like chats with MBA Club when I started, and you have been doing
Mhm.
nothing but a phenomenal job with the whole MBA Club. So kudos to you and your whole team. And
Thank
thank you
you.
everyone for who attended and who will be watching it later. Again, if any questions, feel free to reach out. And thank you so much. So everyone have a
Thank
wonderful
you very much. You too. Have
Thank
a
you.
good day.
bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.